Hey everyone, it's Kaycie, and I wanted to create a video for the beginners out there that are interested in yoga practice, but maybe a little confused as to where to start or needing a little more information before building up that confidence to take your first class. So first and foremost, no, you do not have to be flexible to do yoga, but you do have to do yoga in order to get flexible, or at least focusing on your body, stretching, recovery, those types of things are going to bring a little bit of balance in. And over time of consistency in your practice, you'll start to notice significant differences in your body's flexibility. Chances are you just haven't stretched for a really long time. So one of the most missed things when first starting a yoga practice is not knowing the style that you want to practice. Now this all narrows down to one very important question, which is, why are you interested in starting yoga? And we all start for different reasons. So maybe yours is because you're recovering from an injury. Maybe you're looking to de-stress. Maybe someone told you that yoga helps to build strength into the body, right? There's all these different reasons for why we show up to the practice. But we're not always fully aware of what the different practices are. So sometimes we miss and we pick a practice that doesn't necessarily fit our needs. And then we might have a distaste for yoga and what it is just based on that one experience, when if we would have opened ourselves to different experiences, we may have found that one that really fits for us. So maybe you're looking for something a little more gentle. Maybe you're looking for something a little more active. And I like to break this down into two categories. You have your yin practice and you have your yang practice. So let's focus on the yin practice first. We do have yin yoga, which is more of a releasing practice, right? It's usually on the floor and more relaxed positions, using a lot of props, things to help you relax over, but you do hold a stretch. It's more of a disengaged stretch where the body can kind of melt into the shape and you get deeper into the fascial tissues of the body. So super good way of releasing and getting those deep stretches into the body. Another one that falls into the yin category would be restorative yoga. So this one is not meant to stretch the body, but to create an opening in the body in a fully supported position. So think really relaxing poses that you hold for a very long time and just focus on the breath and fully letting yourself go. And this might sound easy to some, but let me tell you, when the mind gets really busy, this is a very meditative, releasing practice and can be challenging for some. We also can take it one step further into the world of meditation. Okay, so seated meditation, reclined meditation, there's yoga nidra, which is more sleep-like yoga, meditative, lying on your back. All these different categories kind of fall into the more soft approach to the yoga practice. So you're not going to be really breaking a sweat unless that's because you're in a deep, deep stretch, maybe in a yin class. But overall, there's no intense movement or flowing through the practice. It's a little more broken up and just focused on slower, more controlled motions. Then we can tailor it off onto the other side, which is the more yang practice, that fiery practice. And you can kind of encompass all of those yang practices into a hatha yoga. It's a very familiar term, but it also has been broadened since being brought over to the West. Hatha yoga tends to be referred to as more of the gentle approach to the yang practices, right? But depending on where you go, this can vastly differ, okay? So hatha, if you're taking practice with me, hatha will be the more gentle approach, slowed down movements, but still a movement-based practice. Not necessarily one breath, one motion, but you slow it down to be a little more accessible transitions, those types of things. Then we have vinyasa yoga, which stems from a hatha yoga. It falls under the same umbrella. Vinyasa tends to kick it up a notch, right? So it's still beginner friendly, but it's one breath, one motion, kind of like a flow, a dance-like motion on the mat. And it is a creative practice. So you'll probably show up and do different things every single time. And this applies to all of the different practices so far. But vinyasa, it is a flow. You're consistently flowing from one posture, from standing to the floor. We tend to go through motions that build strength into the body, lots of deep connected breath to kind of move you through. So when people want to work towards a more active practice, vinyasa often offers the opportunity to do just that. There's also different yang practices, Ashtanga, which is more of a structured vinyasa type of practice. There's the heated yoga, Bikram yoga, also a structured practice, just adding some heat. Power yoga. There's lots of different lineages to the yoga practice. There's plenty that I missed, right? And this can make it very confusing. And especially nowadays, because there's hybrid mixes of everything. There's fitness infused ones, and if you can think of it, it's been done with yoga. But these are some of the ones that you're gonna see being done very frequently. And if you're ever confused about what a class is, just ask. Or sometimes descriptions are available right there, and you can just read up and see what you're getting yourself into for a yoga class. But once you're familiar with the different styles, then you can really pick the one that best serves you. So maybe you're looking to wind down that day. You're gonna go more into the yin side and those categories. Maybe you're looking for something to ramp you up, to energize your day. You might go towards the yang type practices. And that's kind of dependent on how you're feeling day by day. And that's why it's also so important to kind of pick different ones depending on how you're feeling that day. One practice is not going to apply to you every single day, guaranteed. And be open-minded. Sometimes when we're attracted just to one side of the yoga practice, there may be a slight avoidance of the other side. Allow yourself to be interested in trying. Delve in, see how it feels, see how you like it. Maybe you hate it, maybe you enjoy it, but you only know when you try out these different styles. I know I tend to, when I started, I went more for the vinyasa, more for the yang practices, and over time I've found myself moving more into the nurturing styles of the practice, which can be extremely therapeutic. So finding the right one really, really helps, and finding the right teacher helps as well. I tell people, if you want to feel connected in your practice, find a teacher that helps you feel connected to the practice. And when you find that, you can really watch yourself start to grow within those teachings. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about the breath, learning our thresholds within this practice. And let me tell you, this one is so important, and often it's overlooked. Okay, so learning our body's edges, how far we can go, when to stop, really, really important, because we're in a go, go, go society. So when we're consistently pushing the bar, keeping ourselves busy doing this and that, and multitasking, being able to really drop in and focus on slow, deep, intentional breathing can be challenging, right? Breath, we do it on our own without even thinking about it, but when we do think about it, we can start to feel the connection with the breath in our bodies to help indicate those thresholds within our practices that we become a little disconnected from, okay? So taking rest is okay. And I want to say this and emphasize this because when first starting in the yoga practice, you feel like everyone else knows what they're doing and you're the only one that doesn't. But rest assured, no matter what, you're going to be consistently growing within this practice. So stay open-minded to that. But when we move in, we want to push ourselves and do 100% of what the teacher says. We don't want to feel like we failed a class or that we didn't do it right. But the yoga practice takes kind of a different turn or a focal point on this matter. So for you, think about whenever you're in a practice and you start to feel overly fatigued, we notice it through the breath. And when the breath starts to waver, it feels really tight, we're kind of hyperventilating a little bit. This is a message from the body saying, back off, either learn to modify or take rest. So resting, once I learned how to rest in a practice, game changer, okay? I automatically felt more empowered by my practice and by my ability to trust my body and to take rest whenever it asked for it, okay? And that doesn't mean you failed anything. And in fact, as a yoga teacher for about 12 years now, looking back at people over the years that have dropped down onto their knees in child's pose in the middle of an intense yang practice to take that rest shows me that they truly know how to honor their bodies rather than just pushing forward, which can often result in injury when we're not listening to our bodies, we're just pushing ourselves through. Okay, so yoga is not an exercise, it is a practice that connects you to your breath. Okay, if you do like it for the exercise components, that's great. Lean into that and enjoy that. But recognizing the breath is really what's going to anchor you into the practice to really gain the most benefits, whether you're moving and flowing and learning how to breathe, or letting go in more of the meditative styles and learning how to breathe, which can be different. There's so many different breathing techniques that help you to feel connected, and once again, that help you to invigorate or to calm down, okay? So once you find those breathing techniques, which are taught in the classes themselves, just stay connected and try to find the breath, and those will indicate where your thresholds are. When you feel met by a threshold, you feel challenged, you feel you're at that peak, make sure your breath is consistent. And if it's not, either drop into any resting position. Child's pose is pretty common, but any resting position will always be good as long as you're listening to your body. Or we learn how to modify. And learning how to modify does take time, especially if the instructor isn't consistently offering those options to you as to how to modify. Okay, so one-on-one can be a really great way to kind of tailor your needs and finding those modifications. Go to an actual live class, work with a teacher there, but recognize there are other students involved. Or you can just kind of work through and learn progressively on your own through practice online and just kind of learning little tips and tricks along the way. I love to teach modifications. So chances are in my classes, I'll give at least a few different options for postures where I've noticed over time people have had challenges or needed these modifications. And usually what helps one person can usually apply to a lot of different people as well. So super helpful to learn those things about ourselves. And modifications are, once again, not something that mean that we can't do it. It's just a way to help us better do the position so that it benefits us more, right? And let me tell you, once you learn how to properly modify your practices, that breath moves so smoothly and you feel so connected to it. And this will help to lead you to not only a more connected practice, but it'll also lead you to more physical intuition, learning how to trust your boundaries, your edges, and to slowly build more and more confidence within your practice. Now, something that helps, and this is also one of the last things I want to talk about, is the use of props. Props are often used either as a modification, as an aid to whatever we're doing, or as a way to help us relax. It brings us stability, it brings us comfort. There's two sides to the coin and they can be used for different things. So typically in a yang-based practice, you're gonna see more blocks and straps being used because they're quick and easy props to be used. So blocks, real quick with blocks, this is a 4-inch block, which is more of a standard type of block. Right here, I'm using a cork block. I really like these ones, but there's a few different ones, and I'm sure there's plenty more nowadays. But the most common that you will see is foam blocks. They're softer, they have a little more squish to them, and by using a foam block, they're usually used for cushion, right? So more of the relaxing types of props that we use to release onto so that we don't have things jabbing into us. It's nice and soft to relax onto. Then there's the cork blocks, which is still soft, but offers a little bit more stability. I like these blocks because I can kind of do both different things with them, right? And then the next step up that you'll see commonly are wooden blocks. Wooden blocks are obviously the most firm, they're very solid, but they're not necessarily comfortable to relax onto. You usually have to pad them up, but they're the best for overall stability and offering a little more structural support in whatever it is that we're doing in the practice. So having 2 blocks is usually really helpful. And what's nice about the blocks is that they have different levels that you can use them at. And so sometimes it just lifts the floor a little bit higher, sometimes it adds extension, sometimes it adds something to push into or relax over onto. So having 2 blocks in your arsenal, super, super helpful. Okay, a yoga mat is obviously the most needed thing. Okay, so if you're just trying it out, I always tell people, if you want to go grab a cheap mat, you know, for 15 bucks at your local little store, great, go for it. You can get them pretty much anywhere. But I will advise that getting a sticky mat from a place where it's just gonna cost you about 20 bucks or so, chances are they're very slippery. And slippery and they're short, they're very standard sizing. And depending on if you're a standard size person, that might work out just fine for you. But finding a mat that is sticky is so, so important, because once you start moving around on your mat, the last thing you want is to worry about slipping on your mat. And I've seen it time and time again. So I'll break down the mat real quick. So I use Manduka. I love Manduka mats. I've tried other brands as well, and I know that there's so many more out there nowadays. So, you know, test them out, but Manduka is my mat of choice. This is the Pro mat, extra long, and I like it because they do have assorted sizes, but there's other brands out there as well. These are more of the investment mats, okay? Once you know that you're gonna be practicing consistently, get yourself an investment mat, but Manduka also does offer cheaper beginner variations to kind of start with, which is a great option as well. So mats can vary depending on that yin or yang style approach as well. So if we're gonna go into the yin, the more relaxed styles, typically you're on the ground, you're relaxing. So just as we want more of a softer block, we want those foam blocks to relax onto, same thing applies for our mat. We want something soft and something a little more cushiony. So sometimes just a normal mat is just fine. If you tend to have a little discomfort of your joints being on the ground, especially if you have a hard surface underneath, then it can sometimes be nice to get a more cushiony mat. So you might have seen those thick foam mat pads, okay? Those are used for more of the relaxing styles of yoga, right? But you can use a normal mat even if it's thin for that style as well. So yin across the board, you can use pretty much whatever you want, but if you want that extra cushion, add that extra cushion in there, okay? But if we move into the yang side, I would not recommend the cushiony mats. You can get extra thick. Manduka makes extra thick. There's a lot of brands that make extra thick mats, but you don't want them to be super cushy and thick and foamy and where they can stretch and pull apart. Because same thing, if we're gonna be moving a lot, we're gonna be on our hands, we're gonna be balancing, those types of things, then you don't wanna have to worry about moving around on your mat, slipping, it stretching out, and not balanced because it's rocking side to side or squishing around. You want something a little more stable, right? So even if you get an extra thick mat, you can get thin mats. They have travel mats, all kinds of different things. But standard mats are around 4 to 6 millimeters, depending, I believe. And so check those out, extra long, they have extra wides, all kinds of things for whatever it is that you're looking for. But finding a good mat, it will last you for a long time. If you invest into something, it will last. So find the mat that works best for you, okay? Test them out and let me know in the reviews as well. And then we're gonna kind of move on. I'm gonna go just through the major kind of props that you're gonna see. A strap. So this is just, I'm using a jujitsu belt right now. I actually don't even have my yoga strap on me, but a yoga strap, a belt, all those types of things can be used in replacement of a yoga strap. Dog leashes, I've seen crazy things being used. But whatever works for you, you just really need something to strap around. And this usually is just creating extra length, whether it's into your arms or in your legs. But straps can also be really, really helpful for creating kind of a lock or securing a position and holding it in place. So because this is just a simple belt, right? There's no loop, there's nothing I can lock into. It's pretty open on both sides. Now, a good yoga strap will offer a buckle or a double loop that you can slide and create a loop with, and through that loop you can adjust it and it'll be able to lock into place. Okay, so those are the ones I would highly, highly recommend. Specifically not ones that are super stretchy. I like ones that are firm and then you can just adjust with the strap or with the little adjustment piece, okay? So the reason that those are nice is because you can get yourself into positions. Let's say I'm looping it around my legs and around my back, and I can tighten it up and then just keep it locked into place and it'll hold me. Obviously with something like this, I would end up having to tie things and it's really hard to adjust, and then it's probably gonna slide around. Okay, it's just a little less easy to make those adjustments when you don't have that adjusting feature on your strap. Okay, so if you have, you know, a little extra to invest, get yourself a yoga strap, and those can be so helpful. Okay, now in the yin side, you're gonna see more of the comfort being added in. So I don't have it on me right here, but a yoga blanket. Okay, there's all different styles. I've seen really thick blankets, I've seen the thin blankets, but using a yoga blanket is often used for adding cushion, filling up space, or warmth, right? We just wanna be cozy as possible when we're letting go and releasing. So you're gonna see those a lot, but you probably won't see them as often in a yang-based practice and more of a movement-based practice because we're sweating and we're getting hot and sticky. We typically don't want to have a blanket nearby. And then the last thing I'll kind of touch on is a bolster. So the one I have here is more of the thick, round bolsters. They also have more flattened bolsters as well. And there's all different kinds of variations of pretty much all of these things. But I like the thick, round ones because I like a little bit more lift and support, but the same thing is applied with the bolsters. They're used for support underneath the body. You could almost think about it as if you were to use like a whole row of blocks, but it's really soft and cushy, right? So I like these because they add the cushion, they add the support that we're looking for, and then we can still use blocks. In yin practices and restorative practices, lots of props get used. So it's nice to have a good assortment of these things. At least 2 blocks, a bolster's nice, a strap is great with the adjustment piece, your mat, of course, and some blankets. Those are my go-tos if I'm gonna be doing a yin type of class. But if you're going more into the meditation, then you can look into meditation cushions. Usually there's a cushion you sit on, and then something that sits on top that's a little bit more firm, that supports underneath the hips. I've seen ones that wrap around the back and wrap around the knees to help support the knees, to offer that support so it doesn't start to make the legs go numb or hurt the back, right? It's a nice back support. I've seen those on Amazon, blocks underneath the knees for support. All great options. So depending on what you're looking for, these props can be super helpful. I love to use therapy balls, and I like to use foam rollers. I use therapy balls a lot in my classes as well. Foam rollers, not as much, but I think that they're really nice things to have. There's yoga wheels, there's all kinds of things. Honestly, I could go on for forever about props, but find the basic props first and then just kind of build your toolbox after that, depending on what you feel that your body needs. But these are the go-to, and they will really help you to not only modify in your practice to meet your needs, but also to offer you the support and the comfort that you're looking for in your practice as well. So hopefully this is helpful for you, because once you kind of have an understanding of how to use these things, what they even are, what classes you should be going to, then you feel a little bit more confident to try. And once you start to unroll your mat and step onto it for that first class, let me tell you, it does get easier with time. Now, as far as how long you're practicing, this part can be confusing for some people. So often we think we have to do a full length class, 5-6 times a week. Okay. Now I teach a variety of different lengths of time for classes because I know we have busy lives as well. But I would recommend anywhere between 30 minutes to a full hour or more if you have it for practice time. Okay. Normally if you go to a studio, it's probably going to be 60 minutes to 90 minutes, somewhere in that range. Gyms typically tailor it down from an hour to like 45 or 30 minutes sometimes. Okay, but if all you have that day is 10 minutes to practice, maybe you just get a couple poses in with your breath and you're good to go. Let me tell you, that is so much better than not practicing at all. But if you are a very highly active person who's already doing a lot of sports or activities or physical things with your work, okay, then if you're someone in that category, I would recommend doing more yoga, because you're going to need to counter all of that work and stress and tension that you're consistently putting on the body on a day-to-day basis. So once again, if you're highly active, or you have a lot of stress in your body, you have a lot of tension in your body, try to do yoga maybe 3 to 5 times a week for that duration of time that fits your needs, right? And that kind of goes back to what is it that you want from this practice? If you're looking to become, a yogi master, you want to become a teacher, yeah, you're going to want to practice more often. If you're looking just to, de-stress, maybe you tailor it back. If you're really active, maybe you add on more. It really depends on what your needs are for wanting to start the yoga practice in general, okay? What does your day-to-day look like? What is it that's going to help you most, depending on what else you do in your life, okay? But if you're not that active, or maybe you're just kind of, you have a pretty normal day-to-day, it's not super full of activities, but maybe you sit at work, you're at a desk, those types of things that also do have wear and tear on the body. Even if you're only doing 2 to 3 times a week, just de-stress, basic maintenance, that's going to be great, okay? Whatever you're adding into your normal routine, just make it consistent, make it tangible so that you can stay up with it, okay? If it's 10 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, whatever it is, just do it regularly and watch over time as it makes significant changes to not only your physical, but the mental, emotional, whatever you're coming to the practice for, guaranteed with consistency, you will find it. I hope this was helpful information for you. It's all stuff that I wish was given to me when I first started, and instead we just learned along the way. But let me know in the comments what you think, and pass this along to someone you think may help them in their journey towards yoga as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. Talk soon.